Good afternoon. It is 12:59 p.m. on this kind of rainy slash sunny day, Tuesday, the 28th of August, 2018. Welcome to the crypto markets, where we are going to be going over our current crypto markets. If you remember yesterday when we were talking, we were talking about this congestion zone, consolidation zone that was happening. That has really been playing out actually for a number of days. If we go back all the way to the 24th on Friday, and then on Saturday and Sunday and Monday we just had a kind of a Monday we just had a kind of a dull move, and then not too long after we got done talking, go on the hourly. Actually, I guess yeah, not too long. We had that nice breakout. There was a lot of kind of push, a lot of testing to try and see if we might move lower out of this triangle, but we actually had a pretty nice drive higher out of here, and that's a pretty nice candle. The nice thing about this is that we did not see a lot of volume pour into trade to the counter. All we've done really is form a lot of continuation pattern and trade higher. This afternoon is a pretty good example of that, where in the morning at the start of the New York Open excuse me, got a little bit of a cough. We saw it trade down from about 9 o'clock in the morning till about noon. I'm in Central Time, and we've since kind of bought that back up. A little bit of a pullback. It's being bought back up. We're at a 50% retracement in our from our swing from the new yearly low all the way to the most recent swing high zone at 8,500. That is where we are sitting. It's a pretty nice position to be in, and it's a nice expansive move. Not seeing a whole lot of selling pressure right here. That doesn't mean we won't get it, but if we look on the daily here, if we look at how long we've been in this uptrend, so from this swing low on the 14th to now, we're coming up on 2 weeks of upside momentum. And I know it doesn't feel like that because we had a long period of time. Really we had, well, you could even go back. We pretty much the whole month of August felt like we were trading within that 6,300 to 6,500 zone, and that consolidation is just really pretty good evidence of this move being nice and extensive. In fact, if we zoom out even farther, our consolidation really began, the low of the consolidation range began all the way back in early February, and where the top of the range really was formed in that same month. So from February to now, we've been in a pretty extended consolidation zone. 203 days. That's actually one of the longer time periods in Bitcoin that we've been trading in a tightening range here. So we have met a bottom fundamentally and technically. We have reached a low. If you go back to the basics of Dow theory, and we come off of those the distribution period, and then we get into that panic phase. One of the evidence of a base forming or of an accumulation phase is that prices start to flatten out. They start to form a base. And then ultimately, one of the last things that we look for is on the fundamental side or the sentiment side, is the mood still bearish and is the news still negative? And if that is true, but we're not painting any newer lows, then really what that's telling us is that we've reached the end of this entire down move, and we're looking at an expansion phase. Now, of course, that Bitcoin likes to play tricks, so that could not be the case, but otherwise, for right now, definitely looking at a continued move to the top side moving forward here for the rest of the year. We're getting into, after this week, we get into September, and, from really about mid-September, from September 22nd to really the end of the year, traditionally in Bitcoin over the last 10 years, either 7 out of the last 10 years or 8 out of the 10 last years, we have always had a pretty exponential rally going from really into the fall and extending into the early winter. So, this is not uncommon to see us begin this expansion phase in August. Actually really thought that we would see this happen. Well, I guess technically it did. I thought more like in mid-August we would see a more gradual rise in prices, but as we look back, I guess that is true. But certainly we should start to see some volatility come back. We should start to see some volume come back, and if we look back here at the short positions using Bitfinex's feed, Bitfinex just not very long ago, all the way back on the 22nd, so it's not very long ago, last week, we were near the all-time highs in the short positions for Bitcoin, and they're still pretty high, and there's still people hanging on to them. So the higher we move in price, the more of the people who are short on other exchanges are really going to have to think about where their positions are at, because there's a lot of people who took shorts and opened their shorts within the 6,500 range, and we're trading at the 7,000 area on Bitcoin. That's probably maybe not enough for some of them to capitulate, and certainly new traders who take shorts, they're going to hang on to it forever. It's kind of like new traders with long trades. Humans are naturally we have loss aversion, and so that's why we are able to hold on to losing trades forever, because we don't want to lose the money. And that's also why we exit winning trades so early, is because we don't want to lose the profit. So we have loss aversion, and that's what's going to happen with the short traders as we move higher. Is they're eventually going to get to a point of auto liquidation, or it's just too much pain, and they will have to convert those shorts into longs. So I don't think we're at that point yet, but certainly for some traders, they're going to be influencing a pretty nice short rally going forward. All right, let's look at some other. Let's look at Ethereum real quick. Ethereum is certainly a laggard here. Ethereum is, for whatever reason, it has not responded very much to this to this new move that we've had in Bitcoin, which is okay, and it sort of makes sense. There's a lot of fishy things. I wouldn't touch Ethereum right now. In fact, I had liquidated Ethereum a while ago, but Ethereum, it's got a lot of issues going on with it. It's the platform where most of the fraudulent ICOs are built on. It's just not a coin I'd be touching right now. Both technicals and fundamentals. Litecoin is in a beautiful position. I think it's got a great breakout possibility coming up here. If actually currently this 1/8 major harmonic level is a very supportive price zone. You don't see prices cross below these areas very often, and especially on the 1/8 major harmonic. This is the kind of the last line before we would go to zero as far as the trading ranges go. But it's nice to see prices. We kind of leapt forward in time. The arc is really kind of giving us a good idea of the direction that we're going to go. Short-term resistance is above this 45-degree angle. That's that green diagonal angle my cursor is going across. Litecoin, I like it as a buy. I actually have resting buy orders sitting at 63. Well, 63 and 15 cents, I think, is what mine is sitting at. Let me put that in here. By the way, if you have any questions about anything, please go ahead and throw them into the chat here, and I will get to those questions right away, or either in a little bit here. Litecoin looking good. Cardano also looking really nice. Looking at it here on the 4-hour, we had a lot of selling come in right when we hit the 10.5 zone here. But we've since started to recover that quite a bit. In fact, if we look at it on the hourly, we've got a little better view here. These trend lines have been broken up pretty nicely. That's where we've kind of faced our our resistance is right up there. But you know, if we, here we are. This is pretty nice to see this angle that we've crossed above here. So we moved above this angle. We didn't really drift. We didn't drift in time. So the fact that we broke above this angle is a nice sign, because in any of Gann's squares, so this is the square of 144. The rules are that when Gann said when you cross an angle, you will move to test the next one. So the next angle above is right up here. That's in the 1650 range. That's a pretty significant drive. From here, that's like a 60% gain. But you know, if you look at a lot of the other altcoins that have been catching a nice bid over the last week or 2 weeks, this is definitely within the realm of possibility. Cardano has it's one of my personal favorites. I have quite a bit of it. I've been adding to it on any of these dips, and I'm really excited for this. This is a third generation blockchain. It's got some really nice people behind it, and it's one of the Coinbase 5, I call them. They're the coins that Coinbase has said that they may consider listing. That's Cardano, Basic Attention Token, Stellar Lumens, ZRX or OX, and then Zcash. So that's what we're looking at here. This nice break of this structure here. It's, you know, as it started to trade down, when it's gotten close to this angle, it's found support. That is a pretty nice thing to see. So I'm really looking forward to prices continuing to move higher. This 45-degree angle that we crossed above, I wouldn't anticipate us crossing below that again. That is a nice condition to see Cardano in right now. And actually, this pullback right here is actually a pretty nice pullback zone. Actually, probably do it on the Bitcoin pair, so it's 1457. Is that 40? Yeah. Walton Chain, I want a deeper pullback on it before I entertain it. Same with Nano. Probably missed the pullback. Or actually, Nano, if Nano fails to hold this angle here and it starts to trade back down to this 45, then I'll be interested in getting into this Nano all the way down here at 3,800. That's where I'd be interested in picking up Nano again. 3880. Basic Attention Token. It's got a very similar chart to what we've got going on with Cardano, but it's exhibiting a little bit more weakness. Same with Stellar Lumens. What in the world did I draw over there? All right. Where are we at? A quick review of what we were talking about yesterday when we were going over Bitcoin's chart from the financial astrology perspective, which is actually all the way over here. There it is. So we have a ton of bullish time cycles that were completed. So for those of you who have seen this before, it's a review. For those of you who haven't, this is new. One of the reasons that we have such a bullish bias over the last couple weeks is we're looking at culmination of all these time cycles, and so there's a retrograde cycle of Mars that is ending. That it actually ended yesterday. So price moved out of the Mars retrograde, and historically, prices move up when they get out of that Mars retrograde. Additionally, there are two very positive trine sun signs or trine aspects here of the Uranus trine sun, and then we've got a Saturn trine sun, followed by the sun moved into Virgo. We have a new moon phase. There's just a lot of bullish cycles that showed up all at once, and that really coincides with the other indicators that we look at in our market. So quick overview of Bitcoin again here. Let's do a little bit of looking forward. So this is the daily and the square of 144. We are right now we are beyond this pivot right up here at 72.48. That is another actually that is a more sensitive line when we come down to it, not so much when we get up to it. But 7562, 7500 area, this is an important psychological level. This is also the 3/8 major harmonic. So any major harmonic price level is going to be an area of significant difficulty to cross above or below. They always act as areas of support and resistance. And if price were to just kind of blow through this zone, and then it would more than likely get halted at this inner pivot at this is this a 2/8 inner harmonic 80 at 81.92. Price would get halted there, and one of the behaviors of these harmonic levels is after a major is crossed, 75% of the time it goes up to there's a yellow line that we don't see right here. 75% of the time it goes up to here and then retests the major before moving up. But if it doesn't get halted there, then it moves up to this harmonic, and almost 100% of the time on a swift move from a break from a major, it will reverse to test that major, and those are often here. Actually, this is a pretty good example of that right here, when prices really just kind of shot through this 3/8, and then when it congested around here, it moved down to test, and then ultimately it actually traded lower. So that's what we're looking at. On the daily, on our oscillator, we see the stochastic RSI sitting in a pretty overbought condition, but things can remain in an overbought condition for quite a while. They can remain in an oversold condition for quite a while. The composite index is sitting around the 100 zone, but the composite index is a unbounded oscillator for the most. It's in a good spot. It's in a bullish spot still. I would expect to see some resistance at the 72.48 line, where we would, if we were to trade that high. Here's the deal. Bitcoin, how it likes to move out of areas of consolidation, and when it gets into an expansion phase, it has some pretty violent moves. And in technical analysis, when you study congestion zones or accumulation zones, you can project a price based on the length of that move. So basically, however long something lasts in a accumulation zone, or however long something's been trading in a range, that is ultimately kind of tells you how high or how far or how low something will trade. It's usually matched at least in a 1-to-1 ratio of the length of time. That's how much price will travel. So, if we're talking about this entire distance here, this is from we said 205 days. We have pretty much like an equal drive higher. And the thing is, if we look at Bitcoin, we'll use this chart for it. And I can't wait till we can stop talking about Bitcoin and start talking about other cryptos. Because once we get that rotation of capital from alts into majors, then we have a cool trading market. But again, if we look in the past, this is 2012, the summer of 2012, and we can see that as we get out of the summer, we have an exponential rise. All right, this pattern is pretty frequent. Okay, and then we get into another summer season. This is in 2013. We have a nice rise, and then here's that pattern that we see. It's the same as this is really the same kind of pattern that plays out almost every year. 2014 is kind of an anomaly. This was Mount Gox. So that took a little while for us to want to get back into the market. 2015, the summer of 2015, we had a rising market followed by a pretty nice drive higher. 2016, similar situation. We see these patterns show up quite a bit. We often see those parabolic moves. Here's 2016. Prices move up. Boom. Look at that. And then 2017, probably don't need to tell you what happened here, but 2017, we have the summer trade followed by this activity. So this pattern that we see from the all-time high to the swing low of the year, or the prior swing low of the year, this shows up pretty frequently over various times, really on any chart. But in Bitcoin, that's a very common thing to see. So, and the thing is that if we zoom all the way out like this, yeah, it doesn't look like those patterns are very apparent because, I mean, the price action in the past is just dwarfed by what we experienced in 2017. But the point is I want you to think back to, I don't know, think that you were trading in let's say you were trading in 2014. This price action here would look pretty much like what we're seeing now, and then you just saw this massive rise in value. And the thing is that over the next 5 years, it's very possible that this level of Bitcoin that we see, if we were to look at this 5 years later, this might be just as squished on the screen as the price action is back here. Okay, Bitcoin, crypto market in general, when it has a parabolic rise, it has a parabolic crash. If you want to know one thing that's probably 100% certain in the market, in any market, is that a parabolic move is usually responded by an equally violent parabolic move. Well, an equally corrective move. So whenever that happens, there's always a period of resting, and then everybody says, I swear to God, Bitcoin's over. It's such a crap market. It's a scam. When all that stuff is happening, then you just get another rise. And, there's nothing indicating that Bitcoin will not experience another exponential drive higher as we get closer into December. Certainly if you want to know when pros are going to trade this market, this has actually been going on for a couple months. This entire activity really ever since probably March is where people have been accumulating positions. Because eventually, after summer vacations, school starts, idiot college kids who've decided to put themselves in debt for a music degree. Hi. They will realize, hey, maybe I'll take out extra money and put it in cryptocurrencies, and bless their hearts for risking their money. But this is where pros are going to start trading the market for the next bull run. This is where we start to accumulate, and as the accumulation process goes, and there were just the funds and other large well-capitalized individuals or groups are slowly eating away at the offers, and we just eventually you start to hear Bitcoin getting higher prices, and then that brings in all of the sheep to ultimately push it up, and that is exactly what happens over here. So how far do prices go looking forward? If in fact we do get a continued bull run here, how high will they go? Well, that is kind of determined by time and price. Now, I don't know. I mean, last year, if you would have told me that Bitcoin was going to go in July from $2,000 to $20,000, just a little under, from 2 to 20 grand, I would have thought you were stupid. I would have thought that was nuts and near impossible. So, when I even tell myself it's probably ridiculous for it to go from or 7,000 all the way up to, I don't know, 40,000 or 30,000. That seems a little unrealistic, but consider consider the price action from September, or even actually just from November 11th to December 17th. It's pretty crazy. So it is not outside the realm of possibility, even though right now it looks like it's impossible. And especially if you have been in this market for any length of time, then it really seems impossible, because if you're a new trader and if you've been trading Bitcoin since, I don't know, since it was at 9,000 or 10,000, or if you bought at the top and you're still in it, then you have balls of steel if you're still trying to make money in this market after buying the top. Then suggesting that going from 7,000 where we're at now all the way up to 40,000 seems pretty impossible. But it's not. I mean, you got to take out the subjective thoughts that tell you that there's no way that could happen, because it just seems like so lofty of an option. But definitely it could. And there's a lot of people who say it won't, because it says, well, all the people who bought in here, they're burned. They're not going to want to get back in, and they told all their friends, or their friends know that they wasted all their money. True. But also, there's a lot of people who did not participate in this market, who knew how far it moved, and they're upset that they did not put any money in it when it had its last rise. So, and there's a lot more people that did not participate in this market than there were who did. So there is a lot of room for growth here. Ever since December, the knowledge about cryptos and the underlying blockchain technology has become a lot more, it's not yet mainstream, but it's certainly every year it gets to be more and more and more known. So there's going to be a lot more every year. We're just going to get a lot more volume pumped into this. So this is still like, I heard a guy on Fox Business say that getting out of your cryptocurrencies now is kind of like selling Apple when it went down to 90 cents. I don't know if it's that dramatic, but it certainly is a thing to think about. And this is where I get into looking at some of these cryptocurrencies and wondering about their what's their growth. What is their value for something. So like Nano, I talked about Nano weeks, or probably when we first started doing this a couple months ago, I was talking about Nano and how that's one of my favorites, just because it's, for whatever reason, it's the ugliest chart in the entire cryptocurrency sphere until recently, where even during the short-term rallies, all it did was sell off, and I was like, why is this happening? Why is Nano continuing to drop? This has got to be the most manipulated and pressured chart I've ever seen, and it's a threat to any transaction coin, because it's instant, it's fast. Like if you have a Nano wallet, it's like you have your own mini blockchain actually. So Nano is a really for whatever reason it's still really unknown, but Nano is a fast, super fast and free transaction coin. So I mean, it's like instant. I don't know if you've ever tried to send anything with Nano, but it is instant. Nano is a dark horse, and deeper pullback to this 45. I definitely have more orders waiting. I have quite a bit of it still. I'm holding on to it. I have just been really, really happy about this rise. So Nano is definitely one of those cryptocurrencies that has a lot of store of value. Cardano is one of them too, but there's plenty that are just total crap. Like, oh man, we could go down the list. They're either total crap, or they're just not going to be able to compete with their peers. Okay, Ripple for example. Ripple's a great example. Ripple is crap. It's worthless. It has magical monopoly Ripple lying around that's going to totally liquidate that market at some point, and it's probably an unregistered security, and its functions with banks is kind of moot because banks are going to develop their own infrastructure. So they already are. So Ripple's dead in the water. Neo, Neo is, I don't know. It's like you're giving money to communist China if you want to participate in Neo. But Neo is a kind of dastardly evil ecosystem. Not really looking at that, but there's a lot of crap coins like Cure Coin or Music Coin. I guess Music Coin's not horrible, but there's a lot. Denta Coin, is that what it is? There are some really pointless, stupid ones. Really, coins fall into just a few categories. They're either a transaction, they're meant to use for transactions. They are a utility, so they're providing some type of utility, and or they are a platform. So you've got privacy coins, transaction coins, kind of same thing. So they're either a platform, a utility, or they're for transaction purposes. If you're a platform, that's, I think, the thing that has the most value right now. EOS, Ethereum, Bitcoin, those are, and Cardano, those are platform based coins. They are building an ecosystem. They're building an environment and a blockchain network. Things like Litecoin are transaction based. I don't know what Litecoin's doing anymore. I still have a whole bunch of it. I really like it. I think it's stupidly cheap still, but Litecoin, they were working a whole lot with trying to make Litecoin mainstream. In fact, I think Litecoin still might be the crypto that has kind of the first major entrance into being mainstream. It's unfortunate earlier this year that they did not get that light pay. But what else? Thinking shoot. Oh, Dash is a great one too. It's a super fast transaction. But yeah, there's a basic attention token. I don't know if you ever downloaded their app, but they have an app that runs off Chrome, but it blocks all ads, and it's basically meant to it fixes the advertising issue with like online content, and so basic attention token is one that I have quite a bit of. It's a really interesting project. I encourage you to go look at it. Steam is another one. I actually have quite a bit of Steam as well. Steam's interesting social network, and you get rewarded in Steam or Steam dollars for, liking stuff, commenting, or whenever you create a post or something to write in your blog. If anybody wants to look at it and like it, you'll get paid in Steam. So it's a pretty interesting system there. Steam is also stupidly fast to send money. I think it's maybe I don't know how fast it is compared to everything else, but Nano's like instant, where if I were to send Nano from the wallet to Binance, by the time I would tab over, it'd be done. Steam is super fast too. Steam's transfer is crazy fast. Steam is great. Yeah, there's just a lot of coins that have a lot of value and utility that are great, and then there's the rest of them are total crap, and they're just pure speculation. Stellar Lumen's actually pretty good too. The only one out of the Bitcoin 5 that I don't get why that's there, it's OX. To be honest, I don't understand it enough to really, I guess, make a big opinion on it. But yeah, I'm not a big pusher on that one. Okay, what are we looking at here? I'm just looking at Bitcoin's ticker here. It actually looks like it caught a little bit more. Oh yeah, it's setting up for another breakout. Okay. Yeah, it's looking like it wants to push 7250. That is the most likely area for it to go. Cardano's actually got caught a bid back up. Yeah, we may be in for a nice little drive higher. When we were looking at the weekly before we signed off on last week, we were looking for a condition where we could create a bullish pivot by discounting this low that was made was not made on really a lot of. I don't count the low here as being lower than last week's low, because the low that was made was just kind of. Oh, that one's talking about Cardano. Duh. Bitcoin. Yeah, Bitcoin last week. We were wanting that weekly to close and create that bullish pivot. And again, that bullish pivot is when you see the middle candlestick has a lower high and a lower low than the two outside. That's exactly what we have going on here. Looking at this week's candlestick, that is looking pretty bullish so far. Price action wise, the volume. It's Tuesday, and we may surpass last week's volume if we get enough of an interest in here. But we're coming off of bullish divergence in both the fast and the slow oscillators here. There's regular bullish divergence on the weekly that is coming into play here. There's just a lot of price action things that are signaling higher prices as we're going forward, and I think that definitely waiting it out here is a good idea, at least for me. The danger you're gonna find yourself in if you're new to trading in general, and you've been suffering losses because you've got positions that you bought in at highs or they keep dropping, is you're gonna have a real temptation to panic sell in profit, or when something starts to return back to flat. Don't be like that. you I mean, it's hard to say that, but seriously, if we look back in time at any of the prior trading that has happened, whenever there's these exponential rises, it pays to be in as early as possible. I mean, just think about this for a second. So like, I've got 55,000 Cardano, and I think my average on that is at after I put a whole butt chunk in when it first got to 9 cents, I think it's at 13.68 or something. That's my so I got 55,000 Cardano, and if it moves back up to 50 cents, I've got over 25K just in Cardano. And there's that's easy to say, what if it gets up that high, but it's well within the normal price range. Because think about this, the all-time high in Cardano was at 140 or 130, 139.62, 140. And we're trading at a significant discount to that. And Cardano has had a lot of bullish things happen. The project is very active. They've got more people with a bunch of initials next to their name working on that project than any other one I can think of. They are very active in Japan, and Japan is probably one of the more, as far as the population, is one of the most crypto friendly. Cardano's coming out with those Cardano ATMs. So there's, man, I can't wait to see this thing shoot up. I'm pretty pumped, and it's easy to be excited when you have days like this when prices are returning to being bullish, because you just suffer through these periods of long-term down moves or swift down moves. But markets play hell with your emotions. But yeah, just be careful out there. And yeah, I don't really know what else to say about it. I really want to see where we extend to on this current drive, because Bitcoin's really going to be and this is it's what everything is pegged to. It's the most important crypto. But if I see that Bitcoin's making a run to 75, I've got some of my short-term speculative plays that are definitely I'm going to be taking profit on. I want to keep a lot of cash on the side for any pullbacks, and I think we'll see that first pullback happen, around that 7,500 value area. It'd be weird if I haven't drawn those levels in here. I need to get the calculator out, but if that's the middle of that, if this is the minor harmonic between this inner and this major, then right now we're sitting on another inner harmonic right there, but it looks like it wants to just kind of blow past that. Interesting. 7250 natural area to find a little resistance and see a little profit taking, and that'll affect the whole market. But tell you what, if we go back in time, and what are we in August going into September, just as a percentage. So if we look at August here, this was a 15% drive in one day. We haven't had those in a while. We haven't had those kind of rises. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe some 8% since really since we made that first yearly swing low in February. We haven't really had any major monstrous swing highs since then. Probably looking back to July, where we had these two drives up, but we haven't otherwise had a big green candle. I think TradingView calls them cucumbers, which I think is freaking hilarious. Cucumber candlestick. And so really we're looking for one of those, because those are the ones that I want to liquidate at the top of those, wait for the deeper pullback on them and get back in. But I tell you, this is not it's hard to trade cryptos because they have such massive moves when they do move. And I'm not talking just to the downside. I mean, when Bitcoin starts to trend up, sometimes it's best just to turn the screen off and walk away and see what happened. I mean, it's hard to trade cryptos. They are like the most technical market as far as they respond to so many levels very, very accurately, but it's also, it's got some swings. It's got some whipsaws. Anyways, that's all I'm going to go over today. Hopefully tomorrow we should have a more clear trading look at things. Have a few trade ideas I put in chat. Just looking at the Ichimoku real quick. Really what we want to see going forward for Bitcoin is this daily chart. Now, we've only gone above the cloud on the daily chart since the all-time high 3 times. The first time was shortly after the all-time high. That was in January. That's where our calendar year high was. And then we went up above again in May, and then most recently in late July, early August, we were above the cloud. All right. Now, the difference here is that we're coming off of a flatting. We've created a flat base here. We're not seeing any future projections of the clouds trending down. There's really no momentum further, drifting lower. We've just kind of flattened out. And so ultimately, what we want to see in the Ichimoku system on the daily here is we want to see price above the cloud, and we want to see the lagging span above the cloud, but also above price. So if we're looking at this, from a time perspective of when we could see this above price, we would have to wait 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'd have to wait another week if we wanted to see. Actually, no, that's not right. We'd have to. Yeah, we'd be above the cloud over there. From the present area, the long signal on the daily is all the way up here, where the lagging span would be above the price action, and ideally it'd actually be above this swing high. So we'd be looking at 8,500. Minute you would enter that, you'd probably get some selling pressure. But otherwise, on the daily, this is great because we are forming a really nice future breakout here on the daily. Wouldn't be surprised if we get into another couple weeks of consolidation between 78 7,500, because we really want to see a clear picture of the lagging span being above the cloud and the price action as well. If we zip it down to the 4 hour, on the 4 hour we've actually got a really nice clear looking breakout, but we got to be aware of how far things get away from the baseline. Baseline in the Ichimoku system is kind of like the 50% level in Fibonacci. This is like, think of price attached to the baseline by a string or a rubber band. And so, the further that you see price get away from the baseline, it wants to snap back down to it. And so it can really only go so far before it wants to come back down. And to get an idea of how far that is, you really just have to look at, past price behavior and see, where was an extreme, move down and how far did it go before it was the base. So there's like, 418, 428, or is this low here? It's kind of extended. 586. What's over here? 500, 300. So, I mean, yeah, really maybe like the $500 value area is about as far as you want to get. And right now we are still looking safe. Yeah, I mean, we add a couple hundred more, we'll be on that 7250. That'd be that would be 500 away from the base, so that would be the net. Yeah, that definitely you would see a pullback from there. So, again, looking at the Ichimoku, it's nice to see us have this bullish conditions met on the 4 hour, but we want to look at where that pullback is going to happen. And that first pullback down, where the entry's at when that finally happens is at a return to see what price action does at a return to the conversion. And then I also like to see where, if it does come down to the base, this is where the pullback is. This is where the major support is found. And that's a return to the baseline. So looking at this on the 4 hour, return to 6,700 is totally appropriate for a retracement and then a bounce. So yeah, anyways, 148. I hope you guys had a good trade day yesterday. Hope your trade week is going well so far. Forex Lens folks. Oh, you know what? Actually, this is the last week we are doing this, the live session and the recorded sessions for free. It's going to be a paid service after this week, because we're getting into the more active season for cryptocurrencies, and so we'll be spending a little bit more time here going over some more trade signals on a normal basis. So that is happening, and yeah. So for those of you who are Forex Lens customers, I will see you tomorrow morning at 7:30 for the Forex markets, and then for the rest of you, I will see you again tomorrow here at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye.